All right, hello, and welcome back. Local Hour here on the Chase the Most podcast, Preds Power Hour, with my good friend Bryan Bastin over there in Nashville, Tennessee, of ontheforecheck.com. Bryan, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for. I'm real happy Jeff is back. So let's talk about him because I'm excited about that.
Jeff is back. The people wanted Jeff back this week. And Jeff is back. Charlie is a busy guy these days. Charlie has got a lot on his plate. So we got Jeff in here, and he's been kind enough to join us once again. Jeff, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm glad I'm here. Glad to be back.
I am glad you're back. I have a question. You have milk bones in the back. Do you have a dog in this college apartment complex, or is that...
I do not.
Okay. So what's the... I knew, because you were in college, and I was trying to do the math. I'm like, there's no way they allow dogs. And he's got some dog bones in here. What's with the dog bones, Jeff?
I don't know. That would be something to ask my roommate.
Okay. Wait, are those... Am I just not even seeing that? Is that not dog bones?
I don't think it is.
It looks like the one in the top right.
Yeah. Is that not dog bones? What is that?
No, those are pretzels. Those are pretzels.
Oh, those are those good ones. Those the big sticks or whatever.
Yeah.
It looked like the milk bone red box that I've seen with the little white in the middle, and I was like, I thought those were the milk bones, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, they're pretzels.
It's like what you're hiding in the box.
Yeah, like he's hiding a dog. There you go. I like it. Well, things we don't like here on this very program is the current state of the Nashville Predators. Bryan, the disaster of a game against the Vegas Golden Knights. How do you want to outline this?
It was bad. Obviously, we'll talk about. I mean, it ended up being 5-1. Nashville took the lead 5 minutes into the game on a really gorgeous play by Roman Josi and Matt Duchene. And it really did look like the team had just kind of like picked right back up, from their previous games before the break. Things had started, and then about a minute and a half later, that was the first of the 5 unanswered goals that Vegas scored. I mean, it's just let's see here. They came very close to, they were very close about 10 minutes left in the game to getting really near the top of the list of like the least amount of shots in NHL history. I think 9 is what like puts them in the top 10, and they were very close for a while. They finished with 17, which is not great, but I mean, if we want to look at some like advanced stats on this, it's rough. I hate to say it like that, but their shot quality, they've been averaging about 6.5-7% per game, which is better. 3.7% in that game. 3 high danger chances. Vegas, they had a 10% shot quality, 13 high danger chances, 23 shots on goal, 45 shot attempts. Nashville only had 3 less shot attempts, but had 10 less shots on goal. So just bad, just real awful. And that was just on 5-on-5. I mean, you saw guys like William Karlsson, 85% on ice expected goals. I mean, they dominated. I don't think anybody. Yeah, Nashville had nobody in above 50% for their on ice expected goals. So they just it was volume, it was quality, it was hot shooting, it was good goaltending. They got it all. They got all 4 of them. Nashville usually relies on a combination of one and maybe one other, but yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, Jeff, what were your thoughts watching it?
Yeah, no, it was not a fun game to watch. I hated it. I hated all of it, except for like the first 5 minutes. But yeah, so I think that, I mean, the first 5 minutes were good. They moved the puck relatively well. And like you said, that goal from Duchene was gorgeous. Great passing play.
Yeah.
But after that, it was just like Will Carrier just decided to turn on the Jets for some reason, and he destroyed all the Preds loved and cared about. Like Roman Josi did not have a good game.
No, he did not.
He looked awful. And I thought Aiden Hill was actually kind of shaky for most of the game. But I mean, they didn't need him for much, so it wasn't like he had to make a ton of saves. I think they had less than 10 shots until 7 minutes in regulation were left. Yeah. Like, that was off. It was horrible. And I think it wasn't a lack of like trying, like they were shooting it, but they couldn't hit the net, and then the other shots got blocked. So, I mean, there's nothing much you can do there. But yeah, it was a pretty horrendous game. And it wasn't like their defense did anything to help them out either. So,
Yeah, I mean, going back to your point about Yossi, like I clipped highlights from it because I don't think I've seen a game where he's had like two like just they're obviously mistakes. They're obviously like just not a good decision by him. But to have two, I mean, because the first two goals were directly because of Roman Yossi. I mean,
yeah.
he on the I think there was one where he was trying. I think they were exiting the zone. And he just completely lost the puck. Just he had a guy come up to him at the blue line, and
He fell over.
yeah. And then on
one of them.
yeah, the second goal was the one with where they had won the face-off, which hadn't happened a lot in that game. And they went back to him, and he just missed it. I mean, it's not Roman Yossi. It's one of those that like it could have been any other defenseman, and I'd be like, yeah, you know, he has those games sometimes, but you don't see that from Roman. I mean, just real big, obvious mistakes like that. So that was rough, but. You know, we got to hear the same thing we've heard probably 10 times this season that, you know, they just got to shake off the rust. They had a long break. They had all this, that, and the other. And guess what? I pulled some numbers to see how that works because you know how I am. So I was looking at basically like how they did in the first period following a break. So either if they had like no days or 1 day of a break. So basically your normal schedule, basically every other day or back to back, and then 2 or more days. And it's so you can see that in their goals for like everything looks better in those like short breaks. So yeah, like goals 4%, 56% in just those short breaks, and then 41% expected goals goes from 49 to 42. Their shots say about the same, but you know their goals per game stay the same, but then like their expected goals drops. But here's the thing, so like there's definitely a change in like their offense gets affected quite a bit, but it doesn't get affected nearly as bad as their defense. They go from allowing 0.7 goals in those short game breaks to 1.3 just in the first period per game, and allowing almost exactly that same amount in expected goals too. So it's rough, but here's the thing that really surprised me. So that was just the first period. Their record in those games, so for those short breaks, they're 16, 13, and 5. So I think that's like a 55% points percentage. For the 2 or more day breaks, 8, 6, and 1. I think it's 57% point percentage. So their first periods are god awful out of these breaks, but it hasn't really. They're still the same team. The points percentage is nearly identical in these games. It's just that they start these games off in a way bigger hole, which we saw because they were down 3-1 at the end of the first. So. You know, it's hard to sit there and say like, oh, they just always play bad when they have a break, because yeah, they kind of do, but the stats actually don't kind of even out by the time you average in the rest of the game. So I don't think it's a great excuse. Like they just play worse defense because they haven't played a game in a while, but it's not an excuse that we should be hearing so much as we have this season. Because first it was travel from going to Prague, and then it was the travel coming back from Prague, and then they had this break and that break, and it's always something, it seems like. So I just thought that was interesting, and I dug in, and yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I was very surprised by the fact that the records were basically identical though in those situations.
I also think that Vegas, like, they were, was it 1-5-2 or whatever before the break? Like, I mean, I know the break obviously is going to cause some rust issues, but like, Vegas didn't look rusty, man.
No.
They were playing pretty terribly before all of the All-Star stuff happened. And they won last night too. They destroyed the Wild I think they won by the same score that they beat the Preds. I think they won 5-1 last night. So
maybe they were inspired by the Happy Gilmore she did in the All-Star game, where they were just energized. They were like, our season's going off the rails, but this minute and a half of cringe is enough to get us all back locked in, because that was one of the more cringe All-Star things I've ever seen.
I just talked about how the skills challenge would be the redeeming part of All-Star Weekend. I had just talked about it. I'm sitting there watching it, like them cut between golf courses and UC trying to score a goal, which he did.
True.
But yeah, that was bad.
And it was so slow. Like, it took so long to get through the cringe. You never want to do cringe, and then the cringe takes forever, where it's just going super slow, and you're like, oh, we're really taking our time. Y'all thought this was going to be a banger.
Then you start to feel it. You start to feel it in your bones, and you're like,
It's like a real bad opposite of episode of The Office. When you're just like, ugh. That's the reason I haven't watched that one. What is it? Scott's Tots one, the one where he.
Ooh,
that's
you're talking to a guy who is. You're talking to a guy who's watched that show 26 times.
Me too. And I've seen that episode once.
Scott's Tots hurts, man. That's definitely one that you cannot watch like over. Like, you don't, because The Office is one of those great shows to put on like when you're doing other stuff, or you just want to pick me up or whatever. But if you put on Scott's Tots, like, it's you're gonna go down a different rabbit hole. It's not gonna do what the job is outside of that. Brian, I have a trivia question for you.
Oh,
how many games have the Preds won this year when they've only scored 1 goal?
I'm going to guess 2.
Jeff, how many would you guess?
No, 0.
All right, that's his guess.
I have to say 0. Was there?
That's very funny you asked this, because I looked up something similar to this.
I see. I always feel like there's like a UC Saros 1-0 shutout in there, but also
it feels like there should be more. Like, this team
Brian's
feels like a 1-0 UC Saros team.
Brian's answer makes me feel like the answer 0, so I'm gonna go with that one.
It is 0.
Okay.
0 times the Preds have won when they've only scored 1 goal.
Wait, so here's the question. So I had thought that UC didn't have a shutout this year. It says he has 1. So
when?
if he, that's what I'm trying to. Let me look at the game logs, because I don't.
Because I just went after the game log. He has 0. I don't see one. Unless, does it count like if he left? Did he leave a game?
There's the Ottawa game on January 9th. Let me see if I can.
He did. What was the score?
Oh, they won 3-0. That was a shutout. They won 3-0 against Ottawa.
Okay, so I think I don't think Lankinen's had one, right? Or no, maybe he got one first. Because I remember thinking about that, being like, is Saros really going to go the whole season without one?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Well, I'm glad. So yeah, I guess it was 0, but not for the reason I thought it was going to be.
But isn't that wild? Like, it feels like they're a team that has won at least 2 or 3 games. Like, my first instinct was like 2 or 3 that they've won 1-0, and it's painful, but like, it's actually 0. So it's a good thing to keep in mind, folks, when the Preds, like, period number 3, and they're still sitting at 1 goal. You're like, this doesn't feel good.
Give your all-star a break, please.
Mm-hmm. He didn't even get a break in the all-star game.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He must have felt right at home.
Yeah.
Jeff, Cole Smith, what is your reaction to getting signed for 1 year, $775,000 one-way for next season?
Boy, you know, I think I tweeted this, but it was like, you know, good for Cole Smith, right? Like, he got his money. Like, another, you know, we can talk all day, like, from here about how awful it is, or yada yada yada, or how good it is, or whatever. But, like, from his point of view, he just guaranteed another year in the NHL. 1, because he has that contract, and 2, because we know John Hines isn't going to send him down. So he's going to get NHL playing time, which is where I have a problem. Now, he's interesting because he's, like, obviously he's very polarizing, and I don't think he's very good. But I think more of the problem is that they just signed him, and that means that's one less roster spot for a Philip Tomasino or an Igor Afanasyev or a whoever impresses in training camp. And that's where I really have the problem, is, like, you have a team this year that's not getting it done. Like, flat out, they're not good enough. And whether David Poyle wants to see that or not, that's his prerogative. But they are, by most measures, not getting it done. And when you bring in these young guys, you have Cody Glass playing first line, you have Juuso Parssinen in an elevated role, and they're doing well, and they're bringing this energy and this, you know, this figure to the lineup. It's like, why wouldn't you want more of that? And as much as Cole Smith is okay defensively, he didn't score a goal for like 50 games. Like like 50 total career games, 40 something games this year. Like, and I don't know what else needs to be said. Like, their offense isn't like totally bad, but like, you have your big guys regressing, and this has been the problem all year. You have your big guys regressing back to where they were before last year, right? Like, you don't have Matthew Shane scoring 40 goals. You don't have Phil Forsberg scoring 40 goals. You don't have Granlund with 40 assists or whatever. Johansson's back to where he was, and then you have Tomasino down, who scored more last year than Cole Smith has this year.
Yep.
And like, you're actively like making your offense worse, and then like you're wondering why you can't win games. Like, I know it's not like kind of cause and effect like totally there, but like there is reason to be upset that a team is actively making themselves worse. And like, I don't think Philip Tomasino is going to come in and be some game breaker this year, but I think if you play 76 NHL games and then prove your worth in the bottom six with guys who are frankly not as good as you are at 19 years old or however he is, like, I think you deserve a shot on that wing up in the top six for more than a game or whatever. But yeah, I mean, good on Cole Smith. Congrats to him. Getting an NHL contract is hard, but from an objective point of view, looking at this team, I don't really get it. I don't.
It's crazy. I mean, so here's the thing. So like, this should be, and I think this is maybe something I've noticed. Like, hockey Twitter tends to love those guys that are like right on the bubble of making the roster, or they were undrafted, stuff like that. Like, like a scrap, like a Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even before he started scoring as much as he did last year, which apparently he may never do again. But you love those kind of stories. I think it was just the one, like, he's been in the roster for almost every game this season, I believe.
Other than when he was hurt. Yeah. He's been there every game.
And it's been like it's just been the reaction from the team to people being like, why is Cole Smith still playing when other players have gotten benched for less?
Oh yeah.
There's
the leash is weird.
Yeah, the leash is weird about it. But two, like, you brought up talking about, like, one, creating spots for your younger players or guys to come and like get into the roster. I mean, Tommy Novak also got a contract, another 1 year.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, and
how could I do
fine.
that?
He's been fine. He's been good.
Yeah.
I've liked him quite a bit this season. And these less than $1 million contracts for like young dudes, it's drop in the bucket. Like, this isn't gonna really, yes, it could keep somebody from getting a roster spot next year, but it's also not enough that where they'll be like, we can also throw them on waivers if we need to make room, because it's not going to matter too much. No one will claim Cole Smith, I can tell you that. They will claim Eli Tolvanen, but not Cole Smith. But I mean, if you look, I want to see if I can make this work correctly, but I was going to show you kind of, this is, setting your young players up for success is important, I think, and it's something that doesn't get quite as much, like, we don't talk about it nearly as much, but here are what Colton Sissons and Cole Smith look like. They have been with Juuso Parssinen on the bottom line for a handful of games now. Let me see if I can...
charts.
So just without getting too deep in there, the first 3 bars on each side are for offense. The last 2 are for defense. So it's just basically how many actual goals are they creating or helping create, shot quality, amount of shots, same thing. So offensively for Juuso Parssinen, not great. Cole Smith has a weird ability to keep teams from taking a bunch of shots, I guess. But, not really necessarily. He's just barely above average on the quality of it. So it's not great. And that's where it's, if this was a throwaway line, like on the 4th line, with, you would say like Colton Sissons would probably make up, just you need to have that 4th line. But you get a guy like Parssinen who's been, pretty good on both ends of the ice. You see a lot of drive and firepower when he's in the offensive zone, and he's just not. That's not how you set him up for success. I mean, he's still doing well, which, considering when you have bad bad line mates, that says a lot about you. But guys like Cole Smith, you want them for that role to be like to fill out that bottom line, but not to I mean, Parsonen is. I mean, I can't think of like the last time a guy got brought up this early, from like a day 2, draft pick, and then made the team and stuck there. So like you want to surround this guy with more talent. I know that the top 2 lines have been really good, and there probably isn't much of a reason to shake those around. But it's not just that Cole Smith is not great. I mean, he's not, but it's also that he, it feels like he's not doing anything to help himself or Juuso Parsonen, because Colton Sissons is Colton Sissons. That's not going to change. So it's rough, and I can understand, but for this to happen, like as a 1 year, less than 800,000, even if it's one way, like that's fine. They're paying Kyle Turris like more than double that to sit at home and not play hockey for the next 6 years or something. So, I mean,
I think like you're right. Like I think that it's not about like the term or the money. Like that's whatever. You shouldn't really care about that. If you're like super hung up on that, then stop it. You're just finding a reason to be mad. But like the problem is that the whole reaction thing has been, that's a big driver of it, because you have like, you have the coaching staff, like obviously like they're not going to say anything bad about him, but when the problem is that the Preds have players that can fill that role better than what Cole Smith can do. And they're not doing that for some reason, when, as you said, there have been guys that have been benched for much less. Like earlier this year, I think it was Mark Jankowski got benched or he got healthy scratched one game because he took a bad penalty. And like, okay, that's fine. But when Cole Smith takes a dumb offensive zone penalty, then that's a problem. And like the third period when they're down 2 goals, like that, he needs to be held to like the same standard. So I don't get that. But also
I was very glad that you answered this one, because that's who I had you in mind when I wrote this in the outline. I was like, I'm going to let Jeff talk about Cole Smith.
It's not something that like makes me like I'm going to throw things at walls or whatever, but like it's just
why is this
the
still
principle?
A story?
Yeah, like, and
why are we still talking about this?
Yeah, and I think like part of it does have to do with the media reaction. Like you have John Hines, or first you have Dan Heinold coming in defense of him and being like he's an 82 game player. I remember I tweeted that and it went crazy. I tweeted that quote, literally just the quote, and it went crazy because people were like, "What? Like what this guy said? He said what?" And then people got mad at that. And then Lindsay Rowley clapped back and was like, "These people know more than hockey. These people have forgotten more about hockey than you guys will ever know." And people were like, "Oh, okay, so this is how the game's going to be played." And then it all just spiraled from there. And then Preds reporters and whatever cheering in the press box, and it's just a mess. It's just I want it to be over. I want to be put out of my misery.
Quick question before we move on. Quick question before we move on, Jeff. Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Cole Smith, or would you rather have last year's the player everybody hates, and I'm actually forgetting his name now?
Ben Harper?
No.
Oh.
He was on the second line with Granlund.
Luke Cunnin.
Yeah, Luke Cunnin. Would you rather have Luke Cunnin or Cole Smith?
Honestly, Cole Smith, because he's not getting paid nearly as much, and he's not as bad. He at least plays a little defense occasionly.
Yeah.
What if Cole Smith is just an all-time great hang? What if that's what it is? Cole Smith
that's one of those
is a
things.
10 out of 10 hang.
He might be he doesn't. I have no indication, like from locker room or anything like that, that he seems like a good dude.
Great guy. He's the glue guy that keeping this team at 500. It's Cole Smith.
You should talk to John Hines about that. He's the glue guy. He's the glue guy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But what if that's it? He's like, he's the glue guy. Like,
Yeah.
Look, what if he was just off the record? He's like, look, I don't want to play him any more than you do, but unfortunately, he's a glue guy. They all are inspired playing with him. Everyone plays better when he's on the ice because they're like, wow, why is this guy playing?
No, it's more like everybody just looks better when he's on the ice. That's
Exactly.
mean. I'm sorry. That's
We all need a friend like that.
It's just John Hines talked about it, and he was like, he's a good penalty killer, which I think our boy Ryan did something that said that the Preds were better without him on the penalty kill than they were with him on the penalty kill. But I think it was like I don't know. He was like, you saw the reaction on the bench, and when he scored his first goal, and that just shows how much of a good locker room guy and great guy great guy to have around is. And the funny thing from Twitter that I saw was like, when I play beer league hockey, because that's how good I am. Like when I play beer league hockey and a guy that hasn't scored in 3 seasons scores a goal, it's not because he provides a ton of value to the team. It's because he hasn't scored in 3 seasons, and that means he's probably not very good. So, like, it's a dumb analogy because in beer league hockey, really, how good are we all? But also, like, it says something when, like, people who provide value, you're not shocked when they score. So that's that's just a little fun thing to add.
Yeah, and that's like you're giving me lots of flashbacks back to my like middle school and high school days of attempting to play sports. It's like if you added value, you'd score more. I'm like, yeah, I know. But well, okay, I apologize. Didn't mean to get us off on that tangent for that long, but it's something and it's a topic I haven't talked too much about before you've been on the show, Jeff. But I just
that's
knew
something good.
You're one of the people that's gotten way more into the middle of that than I have.
Yeah.
So
I can refer back to the show when I'm talking to someone about it. Just
when he goes off.
Go listen to this podcast and listen to what I have to say about it.
When he goes off for 38 goals for like Montreal next season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preds defense though, it's pretty bad, Brian.
It's
how bad? What are some stats? What do you have for us to really paint the picture as to what the current state of the Preds defense is at the moment?
Yeah, so shout out to my good friend Jess Belmosto. We looked at this stuff last week. We're talking about Calgary and Nashville, which if looking at it, they're a team that's a lot more alike than I thought. But just with the state of the franchise, things like that, and underperforming. But she had said, she's like, yeah, like just in front of both their goaltenders, like they're just not good. It's really bad. And I think like for hockey days, like their isolate for 5-on-5 defense was like a +2, so 2% worse than league average. I think for both their goaltenders. For Nashville, +11, which means they are 11% below league average defensively. At expected goals per shot. So like their shot quality, they're allowing so much more. They're allowing a lot more shots overall. I mean, it's not, Nashville has kind of had their scheme defensively has been one, they play aggressive, offensively, and they'll jump into the rush, but they have been last couple years been focused on, they will allow more shots and they'll allow a bigger shot volume if they can push those shots to the outside. So if you can lower their quality of shot, then yeah, let them shoot from the blue line all day. They may score, but that's it's a solid plan. But they're not doing either now. They're giving up a ton of shots. They're giving up a ton of quality. They're giving up a ton of goals. Like I said, UC Saros is, I think right now, there's a conversation that he is one of 2 of the best goaltenders in the league right now, I think, with Ilya Sorokin, and just how this season has gone.
He's second in goals saved above expected.
Yeah, I mean, he's very good. But I mean, like, when your goaltender plays that well, and you look at their underlying stat, I mean, I think we talked about it before. The defense is turning UC Saros into John Gibson. And I like John Gibson, and normally that would be great, but the man has been through it, and I'm watching it happen to Saros. Saros has, 40-something games right now that he's played, or 35? Something like that?
I think it's close to 40, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. Again, like, give him, like we saw, and Lankinen is good. This isn't Dave Rittich. Like, it's not Big Save Dave. This is Lankinen, the one we were all wrong about, and we've all admitted it. But, you'd think they'd give him more time, and they just don't, because I think they're just trying to win games, and UC Saros does give you the best chance, but I'm really worried they're going to burn him out. I mean, Jeff, I'd like to know what you think. I mean, what things you think that the issues with the defense this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else I can add. It's just, it's like they'll go down. Like, I mean, I've noticed this, they'll go down and they'll have like a solid offensive sequence, or they won't. You never really know. But they, let's just say in this hypothetical situation, they're going to go down and they're going to have like a solid offensive sequence. And they move the puck around, they cycle it well, whatever. But then they come out, they lose the puck or whatever, and after that, it's like a free for all. Like they don't know where they need to be, or I think their biggest problem, they let people walk through the neutral zone like so easily, and it's something I noticed. I think I don't remember, it was a couple years ago, but it looked like last year they tightened it up a little bit, and then this year it's been like, they can just do whatever they want through the middle of the ice, and like there's there's barely any passing lanes closed through there. Like there's just
Yeah.
They're very kind of, it feels like they're very reactive instead of like proactive, and like in the defensive zone it's a mess. Like it's again a lot of people trying to figure out where to be or whatever, but
I mean, like the problem is like they create turnovers, and that's their whole offensive defensive like game plan is to forecheck hard, try to create turnovers, and use that to create opportunities. But they're creating some of those turnovers, but then they're completely just giving the puck away right after. I mean, like how many passes have we seen this season out of the defensive zone, like an exit that's been
their exits have been awful.
Yeah, and this is a team with guys like Roman Josi, Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg, who are really good, like top 10% of the entire NHL at zone exits, and they're just bad. I mean, I think the only saving grace right now, currently for the defense, is that Matthias Ekholm, not offensively, because offensively he's kind of looking like his PK Subban era Matthias Ekholm himself, but his defense, I mean, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's been really, really good defensively. I understand, like I talk about the rebuilding thing and not getting rid of players, but like Ekholm would hurt if they traded Ekholm at the deadline, just because he's real solid, he's real consistent, but it's kind of mind-boggling about how bad it is, because again, this team hasn't changed that much. I mean, their defense got better with Ryan McDonough, and Ryan McDonough is in the bottom 15% of the entire league in defensive metrics, and that's including forwards. I mean, like he's creating goals and he's better on the penalty kill, but we saw a huge difference. I mean, like they talk about that on the broadcast, but like you could tell, like Ryan McDonough was out, they were god awful. They improved somewhat with him back offensively, but this is the defense. This is Nashville. This is the defense team. And they're not scoring as much. So, which one are they going to be? So it's I don't know how to do it. I pray that they don't try to trade for somebody to address it, because I'd be deathly afraid to see how they would try to address this issue with this team. I could see them overpaying for somebody, but
I think the game that like sticks out with me the most is, so I went to the game against Dallas, the where they lost in like the last minute, Rupe Hintz, and I sat lower bowl, and I was with some friends, and first couple minutes of the game, like Tommy Novak tries to stretch a pass to whoever was on that far wing, and Jamie Benn just comes out of nowhere and like just steals it, and then he scores a goal. And there were multiple times during that game where I was like, they threw it through the middle and it was stolen. And I was like, guys, like what is this? Like this is not a good, like an effective strategy. You've tried it already and you've cost yourself a goal, and they kept doing it. And so that's like, you point out like the exits have like been really awful. They have not been like crisp and clean or whatever, but they also have resulted in like a lot of turnovers, and that's cost them.
I feel like they've been coached specifically to try and pass it behind their back when they're in the defensive zone. Like I've watched that happen at least once a game, it feels like, which fine when it works, but yeah, and it's what boggles me. And this is a team that, again, on paper, pretty similar to last year's team. I would say still.
You could argue they're better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not statistically, but they are.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't. So the question is, it's hard to think, because the strategy hasn't changed much. So is this bad coaching, or is this players not being able to perform, or some combination of the two? That's the easy answer. But I mean, it's hard to point at just coaching with this, because it seemed like a completely different team last year. At least they were scoring a bunch, to offset the bad defense. But I mean, what changed in the year since? Is it Luke Cunnin? Was he really the glue for the team? Because I can't figure it out.
Man.
Luke Cunnin.
I don't know if it could change midseason. It seems like there's just not enough that there's out there at the trade deadline. And the next thing we're going to talk about was Tarasenko getting traded from the Blues to the Rangers. And obviously the Preds are not that far ahead in the standings of the Rangers, and they're sellers. So I don't know. I look at this group and I look at what the Preds can actually do and like how the deadline is going to unfold and all that kind of stuff. But Jeff, like, is there anything that they could do that would fix the defense? Like, is there anything that would really do anything mid-season worthwhile?
I don't think so, and I think it hurts not having Alex Carrier because he's hurt. Like, I think if they traded for a defenseman, that would be their rationale, was that Alex Carrier was hurt. But I don't think they should do that. So I don't think knowing David Poyle's recent trade history, I'm not a fan of overpaying for a defenseman that may or may not be on the roster next year or whatever. But
yeah, I'm trying to think, like, who are the defensemen that are really out there that
John Klingberg.
No, no, not John Klingberg though. So there's guys, Gavrikov from Columbus is 2.8. That's not bad, and he's a pending free agent. Jake McCabe, no. Joel Edmondson, no.
I like Jake McCabe. I feel bad that he's in
Luke
Chicago.
Shen might be for under $1 million, maybe. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to find something here. I think it's go get Matt Dumbo in his $6 million deal.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, look. Speaking of the trade deadline, yeah, I mean they're different. Like, St. Louis knows what they are. And
I'll point out that just to interrupt for a second.
No,
I think the biggest difference is goaltending. Like, I think the thing that's keeping the Predators from being St. Louis is goaltending.
So you're saying that we should get just an all around D-bag like Middleton, right? And that'll help the rebuild process. I mean, and the trade itself was fine. I think they sent McCullough over to New York, and then I think they sent over a first this year, unless it's a top 12, then it's next year, like a fourth, and then Sammy Blais, which fine, and a guy.
It's an okay trade for the Blues. I'm not a huge fan of it. I would say they're also retaining salary on Tarasenko.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the next part. They retained half his salary, which is crazy because that deal was. I remember, wasn't he the reason why they got the Blues had like issues with like they were over the cap and they were gonna have to like LTIR like two guys.
I think so.
Yeah. And then they also the Blues got a prospect named Hunter Skinner. What a cool name! I did not see that before. But I mean, so it's a fine trade. I don't think it's not great for either team. I don't know that I would have gone out and gotten Tarasenko for that because he's been kind of mediocre.
He gets to play with his buddy Panarin.
Yeah, and it's funny too because Panarin's like, oh, when I was growing up, he was helping me. I'm like, God, yeah, Tarasenko is old. I thought Panarin was old too. I guess not, but it's one of those that this team looks like a team. Those 3 games before the All-Star break, they look like a team that was figuring things out on offense. They started to look a little bit more consistent, and then this game happened. And this is Vegas. This was 5-1 loss with Vegas without Mark Stone, who I think is like one of my favorite players right now in the NHL. Another guy I banged my head against, just yelling that Nashville should get him, and didn't do it. That's why I stick to bottom 6 guys they should pick. Go get Colin Blackwell again. It's fine. But that's the kind of trade that, like, if Tarasenko gets a first and a fourth, they retain half his salary. Like, what could Matthias Ekholm get you? I mean,
what could Nino Niederreiter get?
I mean, or after last season, it would be one of those where it's like, throw a Mikael Granlund out there. I don't think anybody's biting this year, but it's one of those that if that's gonna start setting the price on this trade deadline, which God, please be eventful, please.
If it's anything like the NBA,
It is
I know.
absolutely not.
well, I'm thinking they might have to respond. They might have to be like, all right, the NBA went bonkers. We've got to retaliate here a little bit.
Yeah, and that'll just mean that Patrick Kane will go to like, I don't know, what's another team that everybody hates? The Penguins or something. And it'll just be like, oh God, I said that and I'm going to manifest that now. Oh, that's gross. Yeah, it's really, I don't know. It's a trade
Sidney
that
Crosby
should
to
be
the Preds. Many are saying.
Yes.
Sources say.
But I mean, still, this team's also not very far from being in contention for a lottery pick. I mean, I think their chances of like being in the top 12 or something like 14%, which is also
Brian, you still want this, man. And the Preds are like, you can kill us all you want. We're staying at like -3 point differential and not falling off a cliff no matter what. We're not doing this. We're not allowing that to happen. The bottom is not falling out.
And that's the hard part is because they've been a team that like I think they've not had any like more than I think they've had 4 straight wins and like up to 3 straight losses, but they've never gotten more than that. And
They lost 6 straight, I think, early.
oh, did they? Yeah, that's right. But the point, like, they haven't had these big long streaks or anything like that. It's just kind of like if you take every like a 10-game sample, they're usually 4, 5, and 1. Like it's just basically how they do, or like a 10-game sample. And so it's hard because nobody likes covering a team when they're real bad. I mean, let's just be honest, because it's the same things. It's the same things people tweet at you, and they ask the same questions. Well, why didn't you ask them why they suck to the coach when you're sitting 10 feet in front of them? Like, yeah, I thought about it, but no.
Anyone who's ever been around, like, or interviewed, like, that's just not how any of this works. And the answer that you want is not coming by asking that particular question.
Yeah, I'm gonna show my biases here, but like, this is a lot like watching the Tony Romo Cowboys, where it was just kind of like. The pieces were kind of there, and things were there. Things were starting to pick up. But
Who's
they
the
just
Tony Romo in this analogy?
Who is Tony Romo in this analogy?
Yeah. Is it Soros? Is it Forsberg? Who is it?
That came out of nowhere and kind of. I would say
Cole Smith.
No, I'll tell you right now, but it's not an active player. The Tony Romo of the Predators at that point was PK Subban.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Which, by the way,
yeah.
Tuesday is PK Subban Appreciation Night. He will be in the building. Is it Monday? It's Monday. I'm supposed to have a Valentine's Day night. We may have to stop by Bridgestone so I can see PK, because that was the thing I wanted so badly when I started with OTF was I want to talk to PK, and then they traded him that offseason, which
Many
was
are
smart.
saying meeting PK is pretty romantic. So
yeah, it is. It is. And honestly, she's gonna have to understand that because it's PK Subban. But anyways, go check him out. Go tell him you love him. Please. Let's try to drown out the racists we used to hear at the games, because he's the best, and I think he's one of the top 3 most important players in Nashville Predators history. I would argue.
He's up there.
Was there a Thrashers night the other night, by the way?
Thrashers night, I thought is just like when 2 like white dudes get in a fight at Waffle House in Atlanta.
Well,
like...
hold on. Now you're attacking my culture, Brian. As a Waffle House connoisseur and as a local Atlantan,
I am not dissing Waffle House. Please let me make that clear.
Well, the reason I asked that is because there is Chad Bishop, friend of the pod. He works for Vanderbilt, and he was at the Preds game the other night, and then he was like taking pictures. He was wearing a Thrashers jersey. Like, I think he was wearing a Kovalchuk jersey, which I may or may not have had 20 years ago.
Everybody
and
had
the blue one, not the burgundy.
I currently have a blue Kovalchuk jersey.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Hey,
I feel like it's a sneaky high selling jersey all time. Like, if I had to guess, I think it's a sneaky high selling jersey.
You're more of a hockey man than I think you initially thought you might have been. Like, to have that jersey specifically, like, that's a good, like, that's a lot of respect from people on hockey Twitter. I'll tell you that, because they love him. I love him
Ilya, but it was Believe in Blue and all that kind of stuff. One day we'll just do a whole episode on like why the Atlanta Spirit killed the Thrashers. But all that being said, he was like taking pictures of all these Thrashers jerseys coming out of Bridgestone the other night, and I was like, are they doing like a remember them, like get the people in the South to come, like, hey, all the Atlantan transplants in Nashville, come on down to Bridgestone and join the Preds bandwagon. Like, I didn't know. I wanted to ask you all that.
There's usually two or three that I see randomly at games. I do try to take note of like the weird jerseys that I get or that I see.
Yeah.
My favorite, I'm trying to remember who it was. They had a jersey that they had to have gotten custom because he didn't play very long. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was a guy I think had like 3 games with Nashville, and this guy bought this jersey and continues to wear it. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was, I mean, think of the most random dude from the Cup run.
Harry Zollnerchuk.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid saying Harry his name, but yeah, I mean, it was a guy like that. It was like that kind of person, and it's so like I don't know. I know. I think last week might have been the college night for Vandy. Maybe I can't remember.
Maybe
It
that
was
was it.
recent.
They just had a lot of Atlanta people who go to Vandy. I don't know what it was, but it was just I saw in his story that there was multiple people he was taking pictures of at Bridgestone wearing Thrasher jerseys, and I'm like, what are the odds? What's going on?
The question though, Chase, and this is getting into hockey more and more. I don't know how do you think the Thrashers moved from Atlanta to Winnipeg? Because it had to have been trucks or trains, because obviously they couldn't have flown because there are no airports in Winnipeg. So
That's real right there.
yeah, there's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. I've been to Winnipeg. I remember the zoo. I don't remember an airport, so I can't confirm that there actually is one, even though they are the Jets. So it's one of my favorite dumb jokes about hockey is just Winnipeg straight up doesn't have an airport, and it's it's like Jamie Benn jokes. It's those always go down real well. Well, in that case, maybe not, but so yeah. So I mean, this is what they've got. I don't know. This I think tomorrow is going to be very interesting. It's the Flyers.
The Flyers are only 1 point behind the Predators.
That's something that I would not have expected.
They have played more games, but they are 1 point
either because
behind
I
the
thought
Predators.
Philly might be a little bit better, which I didn't think that, but I thought they were going to be a lot worse. And when you see Nashville and Philly's name like in the standings close, it's just like, oh. And then I'm like, what? They just talked about, Torts just admitted that Tony D'Angelo has only looked good in New York because of his teammates. I mean, it's a team that's, Ryan Ellis, 6 games for him and for
Total.
Philly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks you don't get to see him. I mean, there's a lot we could talk about Ryan Ellis, but this is a must-win, I think. Even though I feel like we say that every couple weeks on this show, that the next game's a must-win. But, I mean, the first loss to Philly, that kind of kicked off the whole, like, oh, this season might be lost, I think, the first time. So if they lose again, they've got to do something. I just don't know what. They need to make up their minds what this organization's plan is going to be. They need to say, if they can win this many games in the next 2 weeks, this is what we do. If they don't, this is what we do. Not, let's go grab a 36-year-old defenseman getting $3.5 million just for the rest of the season. You got to stop them from doing that. You don't need another Wayne Simmons, Brian Boyle situation. Both of them.
So Ellis has played 4 games, which is worse than it's so unfortunate.
Shout out to Ryan Ellis. You deserve better from everybody, from not just from Nashville, but from Philadelphia. And
he got booed. He got booed on opening night by
Philadelphia
fans.
The light of whatever Lord that you worship has not seen that scene. And hopefully this weekend it won't see it again. Because
Can we talk about how insane the Metro division is? Like the Flyers second last, and they're right there. And
as someone who roots for a team in the Metropolitan Division, it's so fun.
But they're all good. Like I don't know how you parse through who the best in the Metro is at the moment. Like I have
Columbus.
no idea how you do that.
Columbus,
man. Hey, you know what? Columbus deserves credit because they went for it. They traded a bunch a couple years ago. They really tried.
They will always have my respect for that. They went balls to the wall that deadline, and I will always appreciate a team doing that. I don't care if they've been, real bad.
Who cares? That's the point of this sport. It's the point of sports is to try and win titles, and they really, really tried. And now, hey, it happens. But that's just part of the deal.
Now they get they're in the race for one of the best players we've seen in a draft in a long time.
Oh, yeah. So who, Bedard?
Yeah.
Oh,
there
yeah.
I'm hoping they get him because Columbus is 2 hours for me, and I could go watch him play. So
let's see here. I want to see how they have done against the Metro. I'm trying to think. So Columbus, they're 1-1, 1-1-0. Flyers 0-1. Capitals 1-1. Rangers 1-0. Islanders 2-0, which surprises me. Lightning. This is a whole conference, so I mean maybe not naming Metro teams, but Lightning they're 0-1-1. Red Wings 0-1. Devils 2-0.
Yeah, baby.
Ottawa 1-1, Montreal 1-1, undefeated against Carolina, and then lost to Buffalo and Toronto. So I mean, like, they're 10-9-1 against the Eastern Conference. I mean, that sounds about right, I guess.
I think
Boston's
it's
81 point differential still is bonkers too. And you look at it like no one's even like it's just
Boston is a very good team, and I don't know who's going to beat them. To like
the Lightning.
I don't think so.
You
Bruins
say that the White Walkers, the light. You say that with the Lightning. Always bet on the Lightning at come playoff time.
Nah, the Bruins are wicked good. They really are, though. It sucks watching them. It's like I've said this before. Sometimes I watch other games and then I get mad because it's just like, oh, this is what NHL hockey's supposed to look like. Like watching the Lightning, it's hard to watch the Lightning now.
that's why I root for the Devils. It's because they're fun.
Yeah.
Well, maybe what we do is we trade for we have a sit down like the new owner, Mr. Haslam, has a sit down with Kyle Dubas in Toronto. Okay, it's never happening. Poyle's going to be on the way out in a couple years. You're torturing yourself. I don't know what's going on with you that you really believe that this is the year you break through. You're doing all the right things in Toronto. You have all this young talent, and it never works in the playoffs. Come to Nashville, Kyle. It's great. The weather's better. Just come on down. What's it going to cost to trade with MLSE or whatever their ownership group's initials are? But the Maple Leafs. They're always just right there. They're right there.
It's oh god, Dubas in Nashville. I don't know how I feel about that.
I like Kyle Dubas.
I do, but I mean, like again, and being a Dallas fan, I can tell you like. Toronto is just the Cowboys of the NHL, like in a lot of ways. And I part of me empathizes, but on the other hand, like the very first thing I got the job to write for on the Forecheck, and one of the very first things someone told me, we miss you, Stats Respecter. He told me just like all you need to make sure you do is just make fun of the Leafs. That's like the first thing you need to know when you're watching hockey, talking about it, is make fun of the Leafs. And then I was like, oh, okay, I don't seem to mind them. And then just like watching one game on Twitter, like among their fans, and I'm like, oh, I totally get it. And so I get to be on the other side of it for that. But Dubas is good, but it's just
good for them. Those fans though, they really sign up for it all over again. Like they really are just like, give me the pain. I'm ready for it. Bring the pain.
Coming from someone who's a Dallas fan, like don't give them.
Well, you did that to yourself. And me being an Atlanta Falcons fan, I've never felt any pain whatsoever.
No, nothing bad has ever happened.
Especially in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like it's never been just like the Vegas game, like when it was at the end of a period and it was 3-1, like like that kind of thing, like just those just like those big deficits early in the game, that's never happened for Atlanta.
No. We'll end here today. Second half predictions. What is your biggest second half prediction for this Nashville team, Jeff?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways I could go with this. I think probably the one that sticks out, I think on an individual player level, I think UC Saros takes the lead in the Vezina. Mm-hmm. And I think the Preds don't make the playoffs. Those would be my two.
Okay, if the Preds don't make the playoffs, is Hines and Poyle back next year?
Yes. And I think it's because they're not. So Poyle is not going to fire Hines. I have my mind set on that, and as of now, I'm right. So, just because there hasn't been anything about firing Hines, even though the Preds have been statistically pretty bad, since the start of the season when they were on like that 6-game losing streak or whatever. And Hines is Poyle's guy. Poyle, I guess, thinks Hines is like really good or whatever. But I think David Poyle's not gonna be fired. Like I think this has been well established that David Poyle is he'll be gone when he's ready to be gone. Now, whether that's at the end of this year, I don't know. But I think the current ownership group is not. I think it would be in their best interest to be like, hey, David, maybe you should retire. But they're not going to be like, you're gone. You're done. Like they're not going to cut him off because he's won all these things and he's been here since the beginning and blah 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 blah. They have a loyalty to him, and that's that I respect that. Loyalty to people is great. Obviously, this is loyalty to a fault, but well, that's another conversation. But yeah, I don't think either of them are gone next year, and I don't think that the second half of the season, even if they don't make the playoffs, I don't think that's going to change anything. So that's where I'm at.
Wow.
Bryan, your biggest. Oh, there's an echo as we wrap up here. Bryan, your biggest second half prediction is what?
Lots of negativity for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, it's hard though because again, like you brought up a good point about, and it's something people ask you, what do you think is going to happen? And you want to answer it with what you think should happen, but then you're just like, no, it's not. I think I'm trying to get a little bit more out there. I think Philip Forsberg gets the 35 goals. Sitting at 19, he's on pace for 32 with 33 games left. I think he gets up to 35. I think they don't. This is off season, but I don't think that they give Tanner Jeannot. They offer him because he's a pending free agent.
Wow.
Yeah. That's just a feeling I've had about how they've deployed him and his production. And I think Cody Glass is probably going to get about $3.5 million this offseason. They're not going to make the playoffs also. Yeah, they're not. This is not a team that's built to survive the playoffs, let alone make them. And with, Colorado's going to be good. They're going to be back to the top of the division. I'm just telling you, it's going to happen. Minnesota's very good. It's Dallas, they haven't beaten Dallas in seems like 4 years. I was
going to say the team they'd be playing is the one that they haven't beaten like ever. Like they're not going to be playing any team that I think they would have a chance of beating.
Yeah, there's nobody in the West that I could think that, like, if Calgary makes it, but I mean, like, against Seattle, no.
Yeah.
Oh man, who's going to pop off if next time they play Seattle towards the end of the season. Who's going to have a hat trick that game.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. He seems happy.
Oh yeah.
We miss you, Ellie. We really do, or Eli, as people used to call him. All right, Chase, what's yours? Give us one.
Yeah.
My second half prediction is I don't think Hines and or Poyle make it after the season. I think one are gone.
That's the common.
I'm going to say Hines is gone.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, I know the players really love John Hines. Like, I know that was true in New Jersey, and I can tell now that it's the truth now. And I don't. It's hard because it's not as cut and dry as it was with Laviolette. Like, Laviolette, you could point to like 5 things and be like, yeah, there's a reason why this is happening. He needs to be done. Hines, it's not necessarily as much like people.
It's not
say,
as tangible.
Well, right, and they're like, oh, it's a line blender, but like he's done that a few times, but it's worked. But multiple times this season, like. It's just like they kind of have that identity and it's how they want to do it. And it's just like, I think the issue is more just that like the players aren't there yet, even though they should be, because this is third year now, like second full season.
Second full season.
Yeah.
I think it's his 4th with the Preds. Well,
yeah.
3.5.
Right. Because of like after he got hired and then COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, there's not anything. And then also, the only, you might be right, Chase, that they may fire one or both if they are really serious about bringing him back, bringing Barry back. I don't think they do it otherwise because I don't think there's a guy out there who could be out there that would be available that they would want to but I said the same thing after Laviolette got fired and what happened a day later. I mean, like, if it's a guy like, Gallant is out there again or something like that, go do that. But like, if Barry Trotz is like the top coaching option, that's not good. That's not how.
But it feels like what something the Preds would do.
Oh, 100% feels like something the Preds would do. But I also think with Trotz, it might have to be with because he wants to GM. Like, his thing is he wants to coach a few years, I think, and he wants to be a GM. And that's not going to be a current ownership group decision. It's going to be a Haslam included, and they'll also be deciding with Poyle and things like that. And I don't know.
Would you say you Barry want? So
I
Trot's
very
coaching
much
his team.
don't want it.
I very much don't want it as well.
Yeah, in fact,
I think it is in the worst interest of the Preds to bring him back. But
Yeah,
that's a take.
they'd see me trotzing out the door. I can't. I'm sorry. We should probably end right there because that was awful.
Oh, Poyle rules. Brian, what can the good folks check out from you over at On the Forecheck and Renegade of Puck this week?
Well, for the rest of the month, I can tell you, continuing with our coverage, we've still got stories coming through. Jeff had a banger. Was it last week? It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure
It was early this week. Early this week.
Yeah. I mean, there's been quite a few. We've got a real stats guy on the staff, and his stuff was really good about the offense. It was a lot where I got a lot of the stuff that I talked about earlier. And Renegades of Puck, that continues. I don't think that'll ever end, Jeff. In case maybe you want to talk about the Renegades of Puck, but I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see after February 28th. I don't know. You guys will probably know before I do with the way things have been going. So we'll see.
There you go. Jeff, what about you? What do you want to plug as we wrap up here?
Yeah. On the Forecheck stuff, still going. Trying to get as much as I can out before all of this stuff happens at the end of the month. And then I joined with the Renegades of Puck. Bryan did not know until I announced it, which I didn't mean to not include him. But so yeah, I'm with Charlie, Bryan, our friend Sean, and the crew over there. So that's been fun. I already got a little clip in on the preview for Vegas's game, or for the Vegas game. So gonna keep doing that. And I read at some other SB Nation sites, read about the Red Wings, dabble in the baseball world, stuff like that.
So question: all the hockey sites you write for, were
Yes.
any of them among the survivors?
Nope.
So the common thing in all these sites, the sites that they pick to shut down, huh? Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, part of it is just because you write for so many. It's just kind of like, yeah, it happens.
They're like, we need to get this kid off payroll. He's taking up too much.
Yeah, man, they'd have to send you, $20 this week.
Yeah,
or something.
I know. Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to badmouth it, but yeah. It was
sucks.
one of those things that when I gave up my pay, I just didn't notice. I didn't adjust my budget. I was just like, yeah, it's fine. So,
Yeah.
Chase, you got anything coming up? You always ask us.
Yeah.
I always have stuff
Besides
coming up,
10,000 podcasts.
Yeah, I mean that's 10,000 podcasts every day. I swim. Go swim, folks. That's what I've had to do to. It's still working to get cleared to
Rehab.
run again with the broken foot. So highly encourage folks not to do that.
He broke his foot just so he could offer, to offer it to Hendon Hooker, and didn't.
No, it really Cedric Tillman.
Yeah.
But no, I will say swimming is a delight. I'm getting really into it. I'm one of those people who I need to I'm a very schedule oriented person, time oriented person, and I'm a routine person. So I need to when I lost that running routine, that daily routine, that was really hard. So I'm trying to find something else that it doesn't give me the same endorphins as running 4 or 5 miles in a day, but it gives me enough where my heart rate gets high enough.
You gotta get those
back and
Zumba,
forth, and I work more.
Pool Zumba classes and stuff.
It's funny you say that because when I go a lot, there is a senior in swimming aerobics instructor class going on that other side of the pool, and I'm just over here doing laps like a Michael Phelps, just hey, what's up? Yeah, this is
I've done that before.
This is my life. This is how I do it.
I was on vacation once and I was in the pool for one of those senior citizen aerobics class things. I was like, I'll do it. I was legitimately tired. Now, granted,
It's a good workout. Everything. It
late
works
20s,
your whole
and
body.
so walking upstairs makes me out of breath. But yeah, I wouldn't. It's kind of like with for senior citizens, that activity and bingo, they don't mess around with, and you can't keep up with them with how they do bingo because it's insane. I was in West Palm Beach, Florida, the mecca of old people playing bingo.
I was gonna say, yeah. I think the other one in Florida, what is it called? It's basically just an elderly community. Naples.
Yeah. Sunrise, not Sunrise. Sun City Center. That's all retirement.
That won't be me when I get older and I have to go down there. I'm going to a cabin in the woods. Like my wife and I are talking about it. We're going remote cabin. Not the beach guy. Like I don't want to be on a beach condominium senior
just yelling about
living.
sports to the squirrels and the bears in the forest.
Yeah, like I want to go down where I just get lost in the backyard and a bear gnaws me to death. Like that's how I want to go.
All right.
Quick,
All right, we gotta keep it up. Hey,
I respect it.
I'll talk to the Make-A-Wish people and see what we can do.
That's the way to go. Just drop me off. I'm starting to lose it. Just like Chase is out in the wilderness. He might come back. He might not.
Hey, speaking seriously though, get mauled by a bear, don't have to pay student loans back.
That's true. People forget. Jeff, keep that in mind. Jeff, Bryan, thank you as always. You guys have yourself a great weekend, and I will talk to y'all next week.
See y'all next week.
Yeah. See ya.